Hi everyone, this is my Lufenia run on the Power of Knowledge, Celes chapter, and the strategy that I used in this run is a variant of the Eald'narche, or very popularly known as El Nacho cheese strategy. And I have Eald'narche, Relm and Balthier in this party setup. The reason I went with this party is I also wanted to do a non-synergy, no burst mode run, hence the choice of Balthier and Relm. And I'll go a bit more into the choice of party members here before I head off into the battle. So firstly, Eald'narche is the core of this strategy, and the idea is to inflict terror on the bosses and lock them down all the way until the end. I chose Relm because she actually goes very nicely with Eald'narche. If you debuff Sketch and Warp on the bosses, you get 2 free turns after every boss turn, which actually is a lot here considering that the bosses have high speed and high turn rate, which then equates to many free turns, and this allows me to complete the fight below 60 turns. For the third party member, I needed someone with strong auras. The best aura bot for this fight would actually be Serah, because she has synergy and she has very potent Brave Regen, which will go very nicely on the free turns that Relm and Eald'narche get. However, as I mentioned, I wanted to do a non-synergy run, so I had to go for Balthier as my third party member. In terms of call, it's quite important to set a lock call such as Celes on Eald'narche, and for Balthier it's a bit more flexible, but I used Onion Knight so that I could have an emergency turn manipulate, as well as giving free skills to Relm and Eald'narche. If not, you can use a call with high DPS such as Squall, and that should also work quite well. So coming into this fight, at the start of the fight, it's all about just hanging on as much as possible. And I held off on using phase shift on Eald'narche, and the main reason for that is I wanted both bosses to go into blue aura before I use phase shift. If you lock them down in blue aura, they will stay in that aura until they go below 30% HP, which helps a lot because they have lower defenses in the blue aura. So at the start of the fight, I'm just spamming Uranos Cascade with Eald'narche. With Relm, I am using more of her skills because I needed to keep the boss Brave under control. And that's also the reason why I went with Odin summon here. If you use Odin's Cash Summon, it allows Relm a 50% chance for instant break, which helps me survive at the start of the fight. Likewise with Balthier also, you can consider using his additional ability for quicker ramp up, but I decided to hang on to it for emergency purposes. Alright, so now both bosses are at blue aura. The moment this happens, you actually want to use Celes LD call on Eald'narche to lock on both bosses. I just happened to be very lucky in this run that both bosses happened to be targeting Eald'narche, so I didn't have to use a Celes call here. But really that was the main reason why I equipped Eald'narche with that call. Once both bosses are in blue aura, I go phase shift into Omega Javelin to inflict terror and warp. Also very importantly, I did not use Eald'narche EX the first 10% of the game because I'm saving it for this part of the fight. The idea here is just to go slow and steady with Eald'narche, and I spam HP attack after I use Omega Javelin. I'm just waiting for Warp to expire. I'm just waiting for Terror to expire. Once that's done, I use his LD to get a free turn use as well as inflict Warp and defense down. And on his next turn here, I use his free skill on his additional ability, followed by EX to get 4 turns of terror. While his additional ability is still up, it's very important to then use his S1 and S2 in that order so that you can inflict 8 turns of speed down and then followed by 4 turns of warp again. The speed down is actually quite important here, and one of the drawbacks with Terror is that if the boss has high turn rate, you run the risk of Terror expiring before he can charge his EX meter again. but if you inflict speed down on the bosses, it makes the turn order much more manageable, especially also because you get 2 free turns after every boss action. This allows you room to charge Eald'narche's EX meter before the terror debuff expires. Assuming you get to pull that off at the blue aura, which shouldn't really take a lot of RNG if you equip Eald'narche with a Celes or Age Call for the lock debuff. But once you manage to lock them down in a blue aura like this, it is pretty straightforward. They will remain disabled all the way until the end of the fight, so long as you can upkeep the terror debuff. From here on in, I'm just keeping a very close eye on Eald'narche's EX meter and comparing it to how many turns of terror is left. And if I feel I could charge his EX meter before terror expires, I will then just be spamming HP ++ attack. Otherwise, if I need to charge his EX meter, I will be using either one of his skills at that time. Quick note about Eald'narche's LD, which was recently released. It makes a huge difference to his kit, mainly because his LD gives him 3 additional free skill users, which most of the time you should try to be using it on his additional ability, because the main reason why anyone will want to run Eald'narche is to use Terror, and Terror is only tied to his EX. And so having his additional ability granting 4 turns of Terror instead of 2 is huge. It's similar to 4 turns of Paralysis essentially, as long as the enemies are targeting Eald'narche. Okay, so from here on in, it is pretty much smooth sailing all the way down to 29% health. And the only thing that I had a little bit of concern of is Relm was running a little bit low on skill users. So you do want to be a little bit more conservative here with Relm if you need to. From what I can see though, you can actually swap Relm out a little bit earlier. My goal in this run is to swap her out at the 29% threshold for the support Ramza, because I felt fairly sure I could burst down most of their HP then with Ramza and his summon. What I can tell though is that it is okay to swap Relm out at about the 30 to 35% HP, mainly also because once she comes back later on, you then get a few more free turns with her that you can just spam HP ++ attack with her to get some additional free damage in. Though, as I mentioned, so here I'm just spamming skills to try to get down as low as possible. If you equip Balthier with a DPS call ability such as Squall, this is, I think, the best time to use it to help you bring down the bosses to the 29% HP threshold as quickly as possible. It is also better to use DPS call abilities here because the enemies are in the blue aura, which will then allow you to deal additional damage with your call abilities. Alright, here I decided to use Unionized LD call with Balthier, mainly because Relm is on her last sketch ability and I wanted the opportunity to give her one free sketch use so that she can get to her next EX cast before she runs dry out of skill. Okay, so I'm very close to the 29% HP threshold. At this point, the key thing to take note is you want to swap Relm out on one of her free turns. So here is a free turn for Relm. And I was actually thinking of waiting a little bit more, but she's run dry, so I might as well bring in the Ramza support here. If you swap Relm out during a free turn, you actually get 6 turns of support from your friend instead of the regular 5. And this helps a lot because as you can see here, I'm very close to the 60 turn time point. And the idea from here to the end of the fight is to utilize the free turns inside summon mode to deal damage, as well as free turns after each boss turn from the warp debuff. Having 6 turns friend with Ramza is also quite useful because his additional turn can be used for a free turn HP plus attack. So the idea here is to be doing economical damage to the end of the fight as much as possible. Here's a mistake I made, so don't do what I did here. I forgot that this is actually a free turn for Eald'narche and I wasted that on a call ability. So on Eald'narche's free turn, you always want to be using either his HP plus attack or his skill because they will not take up a turn count. and if you want to use a call ability, it's better to use it on one of his regular turns because they then do not also take a turn. So here I decided to pop his EX again even though Terror is up, and the only reason for that is that I'm running close to the 60 turn point and I want to go all out damage with Eald'narche. Lastly, if you look at the turn bar here, you'll notice that the bosses gets many consecutive turns. This happens at the last 29% because they get considerable boost to their speed stat. It actually worked out in my favor because after every boss turn I get a free turn with Eald'narche, and that allowed me to get many turns of free DPS in. This is Ramza's last turn. Here I use his HP +++ attack because it doesn't take a turn. And with Balthier I use his EX to try to bring them as low as possible. The idea is so that I can finish them off with Eald'narche's EX, which does a 100% AoE damage. So here keep a very close eye on the Warp and Sketch debuff on the boss because there's 4 consecutive boss turns here, which means I get 4 consecutive free turns with Eald'narche so long as Warp and Terror remains. But here I see boss B is out of Terror, so I popped his EX and completed the fight. So thanks for watching. As always, if you enjoy the content, do leave a like, comment or subscribe. Till then, I'll see you in the next Lufenia video. Bye bye.